All right, let's get started, James. It's lovely to meet you. We were just speaking off the sort of the recording there about how long we've been trying to make this meeting work between me having something on a Sunday. You've got like comps that you had to go to. We constantly were just going backwards and forwards, but this is going to be a really great conversation. So thank you for being here.
I think you're putting a lot of pressure on me to say this is going to be a great conversation. I feel like you don't know me very well at all.
From the conversations we've had together, I know that it's going to be a good one. So don't stress, no pressure.
No, no, I'm not feeling pressure. I'll get there. I'll get there.
Beautiful. So, first of all, James, can you please tell me where you are right now, who you are, and what you do?
So my name's James Cherry. I am the head coach slash owner of Whangarei Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We are north of Auckland. So if you don't know anything about New Zealand, we are 2 hours north of Auckland. So Whangarei is part of Northland, which is the poorest region in New Zealand, which comes with its own sort of challenges. I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu since 2002. So I've been training for a while now. I've been teaching kids for almost 20 years now. So I started teaching English when I moved to Japan, and then after that, I moved into teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And there's some parallels between those things, but I know yourself, you've got some experience teaching early childhood, and I have to thank my time in Japan for that. Um, and yeah, what else would you like to know?
That's a perfect start. That's a great place to start. Now, okay, because you're in New Zealand, I'm in Australia, and there are people all over the world who probably don't really know that much about either of our areas. They hear our accents and they're like, "Ah, oh, you're from the
Yeah.
same place." And it's like, no, no, we're not. Our accents are different, even though they sound somewhat similar. Can you please pronounce your hometown for me again?
Whangarei,
Whangarei.
Whangarei. Yeah. So
Whangarei.
the WH, where are we? The
Yeah.
WHA in Māori
Yeah.
in New Zealand is pronounced fa, fa.
Cool.
Yeah.
The thing that I love so much, we're not going to get like super deep into that conversation, but the thing that I really love is that you guys have kind of embraced the Maori traditions and things a hell of a lot more than we have done justice for that in Australia. So I really love when things are actually pronounced properly. Whangarei.
Yeah, I'm not the best at the pronunciation,
Yeah.
but north of Auckland we have the larger Māori population, so
Yeah.
um, it's really good to try to incorporate te reo in the classes as well.
Yeah.
I think that some of the competition scene has actually done a really good job of trying to do bilingual announcements and these things as well, which is really cool. It's really important that it's accessible to everyone, right?
That's so cool. Like I genuinely think that that's so cool compared to anyway. No one else is going to understand where we're going with that
Yeah,
one.
no,
Um,
yeah.
but okay, so tell me then a little bit about your academy. So you've been training since 2002. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So when did you open your academy?
My New Zealand Academy has been open for a little bit more than 10 years now.
Mm.
We celebrated our 10th year anniversary a few months ago. I think I was off by about 9 months, but I'm not 100% sure about that.
Yeah.
Before I had my gym in Whangarei, I also taught in Japan for 3 years as well. So I had an
Wow.
academy in Japan too. Yeah.
How was the coaching in Japan and to sort of were you teaching Brazilian jiu-jitsu in Japan, Japanese jiu-jitsu or
Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu
cool.
Jitsu.
Yeah.
So one of the problems that you experience teaching anything that's extracurricular in Japan is you're up against the free hobbies that the kids are offered at school. So
Mm.
there's a lot of competition from free sports straight after school, and like the judo scene is crazy. So the kids who are serious about judo in Japan, they live at school. So the kids that are sort of hand-picked for the real competitive sort of positions, they live at the school. They get up at 5. They do their conditioning. They train for 2 hours. They don't do their classes. They sleep in their classes, um, and then they'll train at lunchtime, and then they'll sleep in their classes, and then they'll do judo in the afternoon again, and then sleep the night at school. And it's very serious judo in Japan.
Wow.
So as a business owner in Japan, it was pretty hard to run kids classes. Way more popular with adults.
Yeah.
Um, but then again, it's completely different in New Zealand, where Uh, there's not a lot of after school activities provided for free. So we sort of fit into that space.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say are the sport choices that you have in New Zealand? Like I know what we have here in Australia, and I think they would be somewhat similar, but what do you find are the most common choices for kids in New Zealand?
Oh, absolutely the same as Australia. Rugby is massive. I think people are playing cricket. I'm not really a cricket person. I'm not really a rugby person. My mother tried to keep me away from rugby and rugby league, which was really big in my family. Mostly because I think she wanted me to avoid getting concussions. And then I end up doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA. So it kind of
Yeah,
turned itself on its head.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, definitely the same. And I suppose you would probably, well, I mean, I'd be interested to know as well. We have some amazing families, Maori families from New Zealand as well that train in our community. And I have had quite a few in the past as well. And they're built different. Like the
Yeah,
training,
yeah,
they are tough people.
yeah.
And
They're tough kids. Yeah, they're
yeah,
tough kids as well. Yeah.
yeah. So I imagine that you'd probably be having, I mean, chuck rugby in there as well. You got some tough kids that are doing some training.
I think that rugby players transitioning into jiu-jitsu is pretty crazy. I don't think people understand how tough rugby training is
Yeah.
and how hard the people are that make it through rugby. I think that trying to pull people away from rugby in the summer seasons is really important
Mhm.
because it's just their sort of summer training session, so they're not so focused on rugby, but they're amazing. Everyone that's come through that's been, I've had some guys that are semi-pro rugby players and they're amazing. They're super tough.
Yeah. Yeah, we're the same. We, as soon as a kid comes in my door and I see that they've got like their little rugby shirt on or something for their trial, I was like, do you play? Have you played? They're like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, you'll be fine. I
Yeah,
know as soon as they come in, they're already, the training is hard and it's,
yeah.
yeah, tough for kids, 100%.
It's very old style coaching as well.
It
So
is.
I think
Yeah.
that people don't understand that a lot of the coaches for rugby clubs, they're all volunteers and they're all parents and they're
Yeah.
all ex-players. So if you're being coached by someone who's brought up in the 90s coaching system and they're the one coaching the kids, the kids are coming pretty hard out of those sessions.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of coaching a little bit, could you share a little bit about how you coach at your academy? Hey, sorry to interrupt this video, but I very quickly wanted to jump in and remind you about the Art of Coaching School community. This community was built for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coaches who are looking to transform the way that they currently teach. It takes you from point A, the coach that you are right now, all the way through a 12-month transformation to the coach that you've always wanted to be. It's not about becoming me, it's about becoming the person that you've always hoped to be when you're coaching. No more stress, no more chaos, no more overwhelming feeling at the end of the classes. Just calm, connected, and safe approach to teaching kids jiu-jitsu. I'm gonna leave the link below. Click on this, take a look around, 7-day free trial, and I can absolutely guarantee that this is gonna be the thing that changes the way that you coach forever. I'll see you on the inside.
Yeah, so I coach mostly CLA. I know that you talk a lot about CLA. I don't use exclusively CLA, and
Yeah,
it's more of a hybrid approach. Um, I think I've been doing CLA for maybe 3.5 years now, 4 years.
yeah,
And it seems to me, from my experience, that when people are discussing CLA, I feel like the debate's a little bit over whether or not
yeah,
CLA is working or not.
yeah.
But I think people still think of it as is information processing and CLA in binary opposition to each other. And
Mm.
I don't think that it is. I think that there's a common ground that you can find between the two where maybe you're running a CLA game and it's not working out and you run another round and you give them more information and they still can't figure it out. I think you can intervene then. So my coaching is really about not spoon feeding people information,
Mm.
but trying to get them across the line themselves. And if they can't, that's when I'll intervene and offer potential solutions.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think there's like I don't believe in any right or wrong in this situation. I know that it can get pretty argumentative, I suppose, is in the
Yeah.
space about like how to use CLA and things. But the thing that I've noticed when talking with so many different people is that you could be reading the exact same books, you can be listening to the exact same podcasts, but everyone seems to have their own interpretation of it. So when we talk about like, I only use CLA, or I only do this, or I use a hybrid method, or I'm, you know, it's positional sparring, which it's not. But, you know, when we talk about these things, there's so many different ways that we can interpret something. And I think that that's almost kind of the beauty of CLA a little bit, is that it can be interpreted in so many different ways, and it can be used as a hybrid method. It can be used in so many other ways. But you are always going to have people that are like, well, if you're using a hybrid, then it's not CLA. Well, I don't actually agree with that. I do think that you can have both based on how information is processed and how we are able to then, you know, do those things. But I guess it is just how you use it, or how you choose to incorporate those things into your own academy. So I don't think there's any right or wrong in any of that.
I think that CLA will, and it props to Greg Souders and to Rob Gray for helping
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu people come around to the table with those.
100%.
And I've had some conversations with Greg, and he always says the same thing to everyone. You've got to read the subject matter and do the work.
Yeah.
Now, CLA can be taught just as badly as IP. If you've got a bad coach who's not motivated and it's just like, starting close guard, fight for submissions, whatever, that's you're still going to be a bad coach. But if you're focusing on your students individually, are they developing? Can you work with them? Are they the type of student that benefits from doing CLA, or are they the type of student that benefits from doing something more IP? That's your job as a coach, to be a good coach. So if you don't individually understand the demands of each person, how can you be a good coach? And it doesn't have to all be CLA or all IP, but every single person will be different. Are they mimetic learners? Are they visual learners? Are they auditory learners? Every single child is different. Every adult is different as well. And it's our job to tease that information out from the people we're teaching and do our best as coaches to meet their needs.
100% agree. I think that that's a great way to explain it as well. The only thing that I will say is that I do believe 100% CLA is more fun for kids.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
biggest, and I think that's where I come from in the biggest way, is if you want to actually keep your kids engaged for a longer period of time, CLA makes things more fun because it's dynamic and you're actually doing things. I think that's like,
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's way more
yeah.
fun. There are some masochists that like drilling. So
Yes.
you look at a traditional judo school in Japan, they'll do uchikomis for an hour. You
Yeah.
could, and that's a cultural thing though. So in Japan, they're like, okay, you say, I'm going to drill arm bars with you guys for an hour. And you just leave them there and they'll do it for an hour without questioning why they're doing it. They're just, okay, my instructor has told me to do this. I'm going to do that. Whereas in New Zealand, you ask kids to do 10 arm bars, they're not going to get through 10 arm bars. There's no way. You're much better to play a CLA game and let them play around.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So then can you share a little bit about how your kids' classes look? What's a typical kids' classes? Let's start with your, even just your age ranges and that kind of thing.
So I have a mixed group that I teach that's from 4 years up,
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of goes all the way up to intermediate school. So in New Zealand, that would be sort of year eight.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's 8 years of school, and then we have an older group which is from 10 years and up.
yeah.
So with the mixed group, we've got more younger kids than older ones. And the older ones that are in that group are the good ones that really want to help the younger kids. So I have them help out, I get them involved in the classes. If they're really serious competitors, we just keep them away from everyone else and they do their own thing. Um, with that age group, we always do the same, more or less like warm-ups. And it's just socialization, to be honest. So we'll play something like shoulder tag. Okay, go and find a partner, tag them on the shoulder. If you can tag them, they've got to do 5-star jumps. And that way you've got the kids interacting with people that don't necessarily know very well. They're running around, so they're getting a little bit of their energy out. And then we'll move into pair drills. So when I do my pair drills with the kids, it's not really serious. We'll just be like, I want you to do leapfrogs. I want you to crawl under your partner's legs. I want you to do wheelbarrows and do these exercises. So they've got a bit of warmth up, so they're less likely to be injured. And then we'll move into more like technical exercises. So we always start with stand up. Whatever we're doing, we're going to do stand up for the first 10, 15 minutes of every class. And then it's what are we doing that week? So, for example, this week is guard versus a standing opponent. So we might play a variation of Stinky Feet, for example. I know that you like to use Stinky Feet, a variation of something like that.
Yeah.
I also have a bounty hunting exercise that we run each week. And what the bounty hunter system is, every week we have a submission that the kids are challenged to try to achieve. So this week, just gone, we have rear naked choke challenge. So I have a wanted poster in the gym, and on that wanted poster is a terribly generated GPT version of rear naked choke, which looks nothing like a real rear naked choke. Um, but that's a good talking point for the kids too, to whether or not it's realistic or not. And we just record. How many times did you get a rear naked choke today? You know, you can only have one per partner per class, and then at the end of the week they get like a player of the day sort of trophy,
That's
where they take it
cool.
home for the weekend and they bring it back and they get a certificate and yeah, I got 15 rear naked chokes that week. Like I'm really good at this. So um, that's been a bit of a game changer with getting kids to be a bit more focused with their technical aspects. But yeah, that's pretty much a standard class, and we'll finish with whatever game we've been playing at the moment. We'll play crab tag. I think some people call it zombie tag. We'll play octopus tag. We'll play red light, green light. We play dodgeball sometimes, depending on the kids. Just to get that last little bit of energy out before we send them home to the kids,
I
to their
really
parents.
love that. I really like the idea of this bounty thing. I think I'm gonna have to steal this
Yeah.
for my own account
Yeah,
because
I'll send you the stuff through.
yeah, that'd be
It's
so cool. It
yeah,
sounds really interesting. Like kind of yeah, setting the challenge for them to
yeah,
try and we do like a game where I'll whisper like a submission to each player and they have to try and like get that submission before the other person is able to be like, "Oh, you're trying to get an armbar." Like they have to try and get it before they guess it.
yeah.
Um,
But there's
but
so many
that's
great games that you can play. The adults, like we used to make cards, and you have a hat, and we mix the submissions around in the card, in the hat, and then you pick one out, and that's the submission you need to get for that
yeah,
sparring session, and you're not allowed to do anything else. And
yeah.
it having that intention. I mean, Greg Souders talks about this a lot as well. Having an intention of what you're doing completely reshapes the game that you're playing when you're doing jujitsu.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I'm gonna definitely have a look
I'll
at
send you
that.
the stuff. I'll send you
Yeah,
the stuff.
sounds amazing. So then you were speaking about like the mixed age range and having your competitor kids and stuff in there as well. Do you have a lot of competitor kids? I know we spoke a little bit about
Yeah, I don't actively encourage any of my kids to compete.
yeah,
It seems like some of your other podcasts I've listened to, it sounds like a pretty common trend for most people that you speak to.
yeah,
They're sort of not discouraging, but not actively encouraging kids.
yeah,
Um, if my kids come to me and say they want to compete, that's the first step. They'll come and say, "What do I need to do competitions?" I'm like, "Okay, you have to do the competition class. You have to do the competition class. That's on Fridays. You need to come and do extra trainings. Is there attendance high enough to even go to competitions? Because if you're doing once a week, you're not doing competitions. Because I'm not having you go in there and get run over by a full-time kid with an Instagram account who's sponsored. I don't want that experience to happen to you.
yeah,
Um, but for the most part, they do the competition class. Are they capable of handling that? So I push them pretty hard in the comp class, and then I make the decision. Either they'll jump in or they won't. Recently, there was an ADCC Open. I have a child that competed in that for the first time ever, and he's visually impaired, and he unfortunately had a bit of an experience the first round. He was up against a kid who was very, very serious, and he ended up having his third and fourth place match against one of my students. And I took him aside and said, "Look, this is your friend. Just enjoy yourself, have a good time." I
yeah,
think that his opponent did 15 to 20 cartwheel guard passes. Like they're just playing around. He's just having a great time. I'm so glad that they didn't get disqualified.
yeah,
Um, but I think it was quite a positive experience for him, and that's the most important thing with the competitions.
yeah, yeah. Being able to just make it fun, I think, yeah, is really, really important. We are still finding that balance where it's like, I want competition to be really fun for the kids that want to do it. And I've even moved away from calling my class a comp class because I for like the last few years, it's always been like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's just an extra half an hour after class, and it wasn't
Yeah.
anything massive because they are using CLA. They're already doing a lot of jujitsu. Like it's
Yeah.
pretty dynamic and a lot of stuff. So in the extra half an hour, it was very much harder training, same as what you're describing. But we would just kind of like focus on this particular thing, or maybe it was a points thing, or maybe it was like a whatever we were doing. But I noticed there were kids that wanted to come, but they didn't want to do a comp. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, so am I actually hindering the kids that kind of they want to come, but they're actually scared of the word competition yet?
Yeah.
They're interested. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to change it. We're just going to call it an advanced class. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
Just change it. It is still comp focused. And the first week that I did it, I had like an extra 10 kids come to the
Oh,
class.
that's awesome.
And I was like, oh, okay. And when I spoke to the kids, I was like, is it because like they're like, oh yeah, we like the idea of comp, we're just not sure yet.
Yeah.
Cool. We're never going to know unless you come to the class. So I was like, cool, let's try that and see how it goes. And we're at the end of the year now, so we don't have another comp for the rest of the year now. But now I have in February a bunch of kids that are like, yeah, I think I want to do that. Cool. Okay. Sounds great. And the same thing. I need you to come to those extra classes, not because, for any other reason than I would feel horrible if I let you go in there and same thing, you get absolutely smashed. And then you're like, I don't want to do jujitsu anymore, or I never want to compete again. Or like, it's just, I think it can make or break a kid, really.
100%, and it can be very extreme. So just describing the match my guys had before at ADCC, the other end of the bracket that they were playing around, but the other end of the bracket had another two teenagers or preteens that were fighting for first and second, and they're in the same club, and one of them came out of that match losing with a bloody nose, with his face all smashed up because they were so competitive. So their coach is actively encouraging them to be so aggressive that they're hurting their own teammates in competitions, and
Yeah.
that's too much.
Yeah.
Um, but something that I've done in the past to avoid the real competitiveness of things like that is we're having in-house competition, and it'll be broken into three levels. So you've got the kids who want to do jiu-jitsu rules. Last time I ran it, there was 4 or 5 kids that wanted to do that. Then we'll do judo competition. So it's just takedowns. So we do lots of stand up. The kids know how to do takedowns. They're not scared of that. And they can win by pins or throws. So the fear of your neck being crushed or joint manipulation is gone. The lowest level that we used to do was sock fighting. So I've got very strict IBJJF regulations about lengths of socks. And the kids come in with their pairs of socks and they fight to pull each other's socks off.
Yeah.
And it ends up looking like a freestyle wrestling competition.
Yeah.
And for a 4-year-old going into a competition, like, okay, I'm just going to pull the socks off someone, that's way less scary than, okay, make sure you do rear naked choke. We need to take the back, do this thing. It just takes all the pressure away. It's just about having a laugh. We make sure that the environment's really friendly and just joking around. And it slowly builds their confidence up to want to do real competitions.
I think that's something that I would really like to do next year. Our academy is going into its 3rd year, so we're still very like new in terms of jiu-jitsu academies. And then something that I would like to do is an in-house tournament, but I haven't sort of found how to scale that, I suppose. So I like the idea of the way that you're scaling this. And something that we do in our 4 to 5s class, our 4 to 5s, they don't learn submissions. So I choose not to teach submissions to 4 and 5-year-olds. So we've been doing lots of sparring, like we start facing back to back. So we'll just do back to back, and you've got to get to mount position. And if you can get mount, perfect, game over. And they're starting to try and stand up themselves. Like they turn and then they both want to stand up and wrestle like that. So we're getting to the point now where I'm like, okay, you're nearly there. I just need to make sure that when you're standing that you actually can bring someone down safely and not kill each other at the same time. And once we're there, then they're doing sparring. They just don't have the submission. But it's crazy how even when they're quite small and 4 and 5-year-olds, when you give them a goal, they can they make their way there very easily. So the idea of taking a sock off, the same thing. it's
Mm.
pretty cool when you see what emerges from them just being able to try and get their goal.
Well, it's just that intention, right? It's
Mm,
just guiding their intention towards something and just letting them loose. I used to think that you shouldn't teach kids submissions,
yeah,
especially the younger groups. I used to not teach them at all.
yeah.
Um, but what I've found is the kids are willing to do it, but you have to spend a lot of time explaining out the competitiveness of the
Mm,
kids. So if you've got kids that are ripping on rear naked chokes on someone smaller than them, everyone's going to have a bad time. There's there's nothing good coming from that. But if you take the time to explain to the kids, you can't do jujitsu by yourself. So if you keep being rough with everyone, you're not going to have anyone who wants to train with you. And you can see it in the kids' classes very quickly. Which are the kids that people don't want to train with, and which are the kids that people do want to train with? Because the kids will tell you straight away, and you can see them whether or not they're being rough or not. And if you take the time to explain it to the kids, to take care of one another, we're training partners. This isn't a fight. This is not a competition. We're just here to have a good time and enjoy ourselves. The kids are actually pretty respectful of that and understand that.
yeah, that's like my favorite saying when we go to line up. I'll be like, you can't do jiu-jitsu by yourself. You need a
Yeah,
training partner. Like, yes, it's such a weird little thing, and a lot of martial arts are, because it's like it's an individual sport or activity, but it's not, because you actually need someone else, but you're only on your own team. So it's kind of a very funny little space to be in. And yeah, that is the thing that I always constantly say is, guys, can't do it by yourself. You What are you going to do? You literally need someone
absolutely,
else. So treat them
absolutely.
well so they want to train with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so you do teach submissions. How do you do this? I'd love to know.
Just the same way as I teach everyone else.
Yeah.
And I think that so something that comes up a lot on your Instagram and on your YouTube, you use a lot of narrative devices and a lot of analogy. That's the best way to teach kids how to do anything. So if you're going to teach a kid how to do a rear naked choke, just stealing words straight out of John Danaher's mouth, just make a circle around their neck. That's all you have to do. Most of the kids don't need to squeeze each other to make each other tap for a rear naked choke. They're like, oh, there's a circle around my neck. That's enough. For 5 and 6 year olds, that's enough. You don't need to do any more than that.
Mm.
For the most part, if you're showing them things like kimuras and things like that, okay, have you got them completely trapped? Have you got their arm completely trapped? Can they get away from you? No, that's good enough for a win. So they don't need to get to the point where they're actually breaking their training partner's arms or hyperextending anything. If you've got complete control over someone, then as far as I'm concerned, that's checkmate. You've already won. So
Mm.
it doesn't matter what the submission is or how you're applying it. You just need to use narrative devices and analogy to find the way for the kids to understand. Oh, I've got his arm completely straight. That's enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's yeah, same way that I would do it with kids that are age 6 and up. So
Yeah.
when you've got your mixed class um all together, I'd like to know about how you do, sorry, I'm going to use the word scaling. I know you know what
Mm.
scaling is,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
how do you then change the way your class runs based on the 4-year-olds all the way up to sort of your older kids?
I don't think there has to be any difference.
Yep.
Uh, I think that if you've got a group that's, say, preteens who understand the language that you're using and are aware of your expectations, then you can just sort of set them off and do their thing. So
Mm,
you put them, let's say you're working Spider Guard, right? So you have the kids starting in Spider Guard. The bottom person's job is to try to put their back on the mat and get to the top position. The top person's job is to just not fall over. So we might set a goal like that for the whole group,
mm,
and then we can have a look at the teenagers and see what they're doing. They're going to be able to do that, the preteens, but the younger ones, they're going to struggle. So as I start seeing the preteens working on their sweeps and whether or not they're doing advanced guards like lasso or whatever they're doing, you can add more to that. So, okay, that's great. Like you've done a really good job of that particular sweep. Can you find an entry into a triangle from there? And then just set them an extra task. You set them side quests. Then you go back over to have a look at the younger ones and you're like, look, you fell on your head that time. That's really good base that you're using. But instead of falling on your face, maybe put your foot down next time. So
yeah.
just the same drills, but we just give them different expectations.
Just scaling it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, that's awesome. Okay, so then I saw on your website that you also have MMA and
Yeah.
um, freestyle wrestling. Is
Yeah.
that correct? I've got both of those things.
Yeah, so our no-gi classes is really where we do most of the freestyle wrestling
Cool.
now. So
Yeah,
we're a very wrestling heavy jiu-jitsu school.
yeah,
Um, I think it's really important that people are practicing stand up. The MMA classes, that's all the same. So we do CLA, the MMA classes are all CLA. Now, I think that teaching MMA with CLA is significantly harder than doing it with Jiu-Jitsu, mostly because of the resources. Um, there's not a lot of resources for people teaching Muay Thai with CLA. There's not a lot of resources for people who are teaching MMA style striking. So what we have to do is we have to extract specific drill games from wrestling and try to figure out war games and things like that. And it's been reasonably challenging to do that.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
That was going to be my question, is how you have found that, because I've spoken to a few people in the past, some who are feeling pretty successful with it and have been doing it for a little bit, but others who were like, I'm just still trying to navigate it because it is adding in another layer of, physical contact in a way that they weren't sure. Now, I don't know that much about MMA myself. Obviously, I love the UFC, I watch it all the time,
mm.
but other than that, I've not trained it myself. So I can imagine that it is much more challenging to incorporate the contact that comes with MMA with the
I
level
think
of
that the most
intensity.
important thing is that you can have a group of people together that can trust one another.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the same thing for jiu-jitsu, but so my classes are predominantly sparring in the MMA classes. We'd do 20 minutes of boxing, we'll do 20 minutes of kickboxing, we'll do 10, 15 minutes of kickboxing with takedowns, so shooter rules. And all of the training is full contact, but you can't train full contact like that for an extended period of time. It'll be good for your brain if you're training with people who you can't trust. So we always train with semi contact. It's pretty common for Thais to be doing kickboxing training with semi contact. And that's pretty much how we do our boxing. That's how we do our kickboxing sessions. That's how we do our ground and pound. So
Yeah.
for us, it's really about getting as much realistic training in as we can without sustaining any real damage.
Yeah. Yeah. And so do you run those classes for kids as well, or is it just adults for the
I have striking only classes that I run for kids.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. So I do, but I don't integrate the MMA. I would like them to come to a proper MMA class when they're old enough.
Yeah.
So it means that I can turn the kids away from MMA training because I would rather them be safe.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, completely agree. I see. I mean, I admire it in some ways because I personally, um, I've mentioned this a few times in different spaces, got kicked in the face accidentally once in jujitsu, immediately
Mm.
vomited on my floor at the gym and had concussion, went to hospital. And that was
Yeah,
a complete accident, but it wasn't full force. And I was
yeah,
like, this is horrific. Why do people enjoy this as a, I don't want to get punched and kicked in the face. That's awful. So I
yeah,
do admire people who have the I don't know, that inner drive to do that. I think is really cool because I complained about. It's what 5 years later, and still complaining about that one incident. So,
yeah. But that's the balance of trying to teach an MMA class, right? So if you've got a group of people who are really serious and actually want to fight, that's a completely separate conversation. We're just talking about people who want to do MMA for fun because they enjoy it. Then we need to make sure that they're getting a realistic workout, they're having some time learning some skills, but they're safe. You
yeah,
know, the last I have a bunch of lawyers in my classes. The last thing I need is lawyers going to work the next day with black eyes, and it still happens, but
yeah,
it's that's our job as coaches to make sure that sort of thing doesn't happen.
yeah, 100%. Actually, funnily, that was when I had that black eye. It was like my whole eye was, I couldn't see out of it for 2 weeks. But I was literally teaching at that time and I had to go to school and was like, I don't know what to do because it's
Hey,
gonna
I just you just got to be honest and say that you
yeah,
got it from training.
that's
I
right.
have to take my daughter to I take my daughter to school with black eye sometimes. I'm like, oh, this is not a good look.
Yeah. I remember at the time, my partner, he's Brazilian, and we were walking through like the supermarket, and my eyes like solid black, couldn't see a thing out of it. And he was like, I I need you to wear sunglasses. I'm like,
That makes it worse
yeah, and I was like,
though.
why would I wear sunglasses inside? That's worse. I'm like, surely, like, no one's like thinking bad things. It's fine. And he's like, I understand and I completely agree, but like, it just looks really bad. Can you please wear sunglasses? And I was like, all right, you just go and sit in the car. I'll finish the food shopping. It's fine. But
He
I
could have offered to
appreciate,
do the shopping himself.
he just wanted to get out of food shopping. I know that. But I think I appreciate that people do care. That's the biggest, most important thing is that I did have people that were like, are you okay? And I really like appreciated that a lot at the time as well. But I was like, no, I'm fine. I just got kicked in the face at training, but I'm good. No worries. I'm interested because when you said you were working in Japan and
Yeah.
did you own your academy in Japan?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay. So how did you find and what actually, forget that question. What took you to
Okay.
Japan? First of
I
all.
moved there to so I worked in mental health before I moved to Japan. I've always been sort of interested in that sort of area of study. Um, but it was too much for me. It was really I worked in a sort of halfway house with people that had been hospitalized with mental illnesses and then had been starting to transition back into regular society, if you like. And it was pretty horrible. And I sort of had enough, and I'm like, I want to go and learn another language. I want to experience another culture. And one of my old jiu-jitsu coaches said, why don't you apply for English teaching in Japan? And I did, and I ended up in the most crazy situation ever. I moved to a tiny island in Okinawa, which is in the south of Japan. It's near Taiwan. I lived in an island with 400 Japanese people. I was the only non-Japanese person there. And I was an English teacher for 3-year-olds through to, I think we went all the way up to 14-year-olds.
Wow. That is, yeah, because when you think about, okay, I'll go to Japan, you don't think about the tiny little towns and islands and things you
Yeah,
just think the main hubs of
yeah.
Japan. So
So
you,
they're actively, especially the program I went on, they're actively looking for people who want to move to the smaller villages, who want to move to everyone wants to go to like Tokyo or Osaka, because they don't know anywhere else in Japan.
yeah.
But uh, where I live was awesome. I learned Japanese very quickly. Um, it was so different to any teaching role you could have in New Zealand as a teacher. Um, you knew everyone's parents. So if I ever had any problems with a student in class, then I would just say, I'm going to talk to your parents this afternoon. And I would see them at drumming practice or fishing or at the one supermarket that was on the island. And we're like, oh, your kid's saying inappropriate things in class today. We need to sort that out. And they're like, okay, yeah, no worries. We'll have a little meeting today. And done, dusted.
Yeah.
And the the philosophy in Japan with teachers is way different. So for example, in New Zealand, if we have a PTA, like a parent teachers meeting, we'll go to school, they give us 15 minutes, and then we leave again. They don't really want to talk to us. We don't really want to talk to them. We just want to figure out if our kids behaving themselves. In Japan, you go to that child's home. So you go to their home, you drink tea and have some snacks with their family, you see what their family environment is like, you learn what they're actually doing at home, what their hobbies are, and you know everyone really well. And I think that that's a really important part of teaching anyone is actually understanding who their parents are, what they do for jobs, what's their mum's name, what's their dad's name. Are they sharing a bedroom with 3 other kids? All of these things are really important to know about the person that you're teaching.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds incredible. What an amazing experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool. But I think having access to the parents is really useful. I sort of wanted to talk to you a little bit about this because I've had like
Yeah.
we've one of the conversations we've had on Instagram was about how difficult some of the parents can be in managing some of the relationships with parents. So I'm going to throw some hypotheticals at you and see what you have. So
Go for it.
I had a I had a child, let's call him Mark, that came to class drinking bubble tea. So he came to class with the tapioca balls. He's let's say he's 7, and he's sitting on the sidelines of the class, spitting the tapioca balls into his hands, and then putting them back into his mouth again, and then spitting them out and putting them out. Then he spills some onto the floor. How would you deal with that situation?
Okay, just to clarify, this is on a jiu-jitsu mats, correct?
This is on jiu-jitsu mat.
Yeah. Okay. And he wasn't in the class. He was just sitting on the side.
No, he was in the class.
Oh gosh. Okay. Was he like engaging in the class and then he was going to drink, or was he kind of just actually just sitting on the side just drinking his
He
bubble
went and
tea?
got his bubble tea during the drinks break.
Okay. I'm asking a whole bunch of questions, the hypothetical questions,
Yeah,
of course. Hypothetical.
yeah.
Just so that
Hypothetical.
hypothetical. No,
It's not a real situation.
just so that I can fully understand. Did he have water with him at all? Do kids
No, just bubble tea.
just of course he did. Did
Yeah.
he is it now, here is the question. Is it normal for kids to drink bubble tea at practice? That's a
No, not at
yeah,
all.
okay, just thought I'd double check. I do love me a good bubble tea, but
Yeah,
usually not when I'm doing jiu-jitsu.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. All right. So normally I would probably first of all address it as a hygiene issue and just be like, look, I really I it looks like you're really enjoying your bubble tea. Is it good? And that's probably would be my first question. And they'd probably be like, yeah. I'd be like, what flavor is your tea? And just have a conversation about the tea. And then I'd probably be like, look, your bubble tea looks really delicious, but the way that you're actually putting it into your hands, it's kind of actually pretty gross. And I would actually say that. I would be like, it's kind of gross because you're getting all those germs on your hands, and then those germs on your hands are going back in your mouth. And like, have you seen how many people sweat on my mats? And then like that sweat, man, I wouldn't be putting that anywhere near your mouth. I would probably go from that angle and make it as like a joke kind of thing and just be like, look, I appreciate that you have your bubble tea. We're just going to put our bubble tea to the side. No more bubble tea. I'm happy to get you a cup with some water. Finish your bubble tea at the end of class. And if they were like up and down, literally like, no, I want my bubble tea, I would just be like, well, in that case, you need to sit and finish the bubble tea until you step back on the mats, because I'm not having you sitting and having your bubble tea, jumping on the mats. Your hands are gross. You're spreading germs to people. It's not really hygienic. You can sit there, finish your bubble tea, and then join us. And that's probably
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I
That's a
would
nice
try and make it
hypothetical
like
solution.
yeah, I'd probably make it like a gee, that bubble tea must be tasty because you're spending a fair bit of time spitting it back into your hands.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. Hypothetically, pretty gross.
Hypothetically. Oh, and
So,
yeah,
so my next hypothetical
go.
is, so we'll move on. The next one is, uh, there's a child that really just wants to train with one or two other children, hypothetically.
Mm.
And if they don't get their training partners that they want, they will leave the mats. And they will make a big deal out of it, and their parents will make a, oh, that's all right, don't worry about it, and give them lots of attention. And then you've got to draw them back onto the mats with their preferred training partners. But the reality of the thing is you don't actually get to pick who you train with in in the gym, and you don't get to pick who you work with in life. So how do you deal with a child that will just run off the mats every time they don't get their preferred training partner?
Yeah. I would probably go to the parent first. So I would be speaking to the parents first and being like, look, I understand that your child really enjoys training with such and such and such and such. Reality is they cannot train with those two children in the entire session every single time. I do my best to make sure that the children are having like a fair experience, that they get to have different training partners, because that's going to help them. And I always try and like bring it back to something that's like why it's good for their kid. So I would be like, having different training partners actually helps your child to learn more jujitsu. because when you train only with one person, you start to learn their game. And when you know exactly their game, you're not going to start to explore other options because you're just going to know what they're doing, right? So then I would say to the parent, what we need to do is we need to be able to help your child to feel more confident and understanding of how to train with other people. I understand they have a favorite. Everyone has a favorite training partner. Even adults have favorite training partners. But what we're going to try and do is when the child comes off the mats, I need you to encourage them to sit back on the mats. I don't mind if they don't engage in that. If they're upset and they need time to be, like, at the end of the day, if they want to have a tantrum and be upset about that, that's fine. You do that. But we need to set the boundary where they do that. So I would just say, look, I would really appreciate if you can work with me so that we can actually help your child to become more confident with training with other people. When your child comes off the mat, please encourage them to go and sit here. And it could be like a space that's on the mats. And then once they're in that space where the parent has sent them back, I would then come back and just be like, look, I understand. And same thing, if you see them walking off, you're going to be like, you can go and sit over there. That's your space. Go and sit there at the edge of the mats. That's your spot. When you're ready, let me know. And then you can come back and train. But I wouldn't then give them the training partner. I'd be like, when you're ready, such and such is your training partner. Let me know they're ready. They can't do jiu-jitsu by themselves. They need you. And kind of make it like a thing that they need the partner. But I think for this scenario, it does have to come from the parents as well. Because if the child's coming off the mat and the parents then giving them a cuddle and saying, it's okay, they'll be your partner next time. It's okay, like, don't worry. It ends up being a parent problem, essentially. Because
so let's run with the parent problem. So let's say that you've got parents that just will not even engage with the rules of the gym. So they want their kids there, they're going to do jiu-jitsu, but the parents are not going to meet you halfway with any of the boundaries of the gym. Could be something as small as them not coming with clean feet, but it could be something as big as their behavior is reasonably difficult and you've addressed that with the parents, and the parents are just not willing to meet you halfway. How do you approach those conversations with the parents?
Yeah. I think this comes down to a systems issue. So if it comes to the point, and I know this from personal experience because I've had this issue myself, where this is the hard part with owning the academies and being the coaches, is that sometimes we know we're doing everything we can. We know that we're trying our hardest and putting everything that we can into our programs. And when something goes wrong, it's kind of like, it's my fault. So when I have a situation like this, it's me having to reflect and be accountable for the fact that I've allowed this to happen from the foundation. If a parent's getting to the point where they're like, well, no, that's my child's training partner and my child's not going to step back on the mats until you give them that training partner. Well, how did I allow them the power to feel that they could have that conversation with me in the first place? This is my space. You're coming into my home. You take your shoes off at my door. I don't walk through your house with shoes on. So same thing I say to kids when I say, like, if they come in and they're doing something disruptive, or I mean, there's not many things you can break on a jiu-jitsu mats, but like say that they're doing something, I'll be like, do I come to your house and break your things? And they're like, no. I'm like, do I break your toys? Do I come into your bedroom and break your toys? They're like, no. I'm like, well, then why are you trying to do those things in my space? I'm sharing this with you. And it comes from there. So I do think it's a systems issue where it's like, from the moment that they've signed up, have you made that expectation clear? Because if you've made that expectation really clear from sign up, I know some academies almost do like a sign up for the parent where it's like, this is your set of boundaries, what you can do, what you're not allowed to do. I don't have that yet. I don't think I need one yet. But if I get to that point and it's like, my system was here, my system failed. And then the consequence of this is now I have this parent that's here. And this is where it gets really tricky, right? Because it's kind of like, well, I'm going to start resetting the boundary. And that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to be like, look, I'm really sorry. I apologize because I haven't made my expectations very clear here. This is actually what I expect. I'm happy to provide a copy for you if you would like, that this is how we're going to be able to interact. If you need to have a conversation with me, yelling across the mat is actually really disruptive. Again, I always bring it back to the kids and why it benefits kids. When you yell out across the mats, you're actually disrupting the entire group's learning. So those kids can't focus. You want to have a conversation with me, tap me on the shoulder, and I can set up a time where we can chat. But this is my expectation. Now they're either going to be like, oh shit, sorry, or
Yeah.
they're going to be like, well, I'm out of here. And in which case they took the trash out themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happens if they say they're going to agree to your terms and then continue to be disruptive and continue to be a pain? At what point do you like, I've had enough. The membership's going to have to be cancelled.
Yeah, I think the same way that we sort of have things with kids where it's like a 3 strikes and you're out kind of system.
Yeah.
But I do think everything has to be in writing. Like, do not for a
Yeah.
second try and have these conversations and then not back it up with some writing, because you're going to need proof.
Yeah. Yeah.
One, just like they're not going to do anything anyway, but two, because parents are big gossips and they're going to leave
Yeah.
your gym and then they're going to be like, that gym's horrible because they kicked me out because my kid wasn't getting, and it's like, well, no, actually you were
Yeah.
asked to leave because your behavior was really inappropriate.
Yeah.
But same thing with kids, 3 strikes, you're out.
But I just don't think that I do think that this is an aside. I think
Mm,
that a lot of the parents don't even take into consideration their own behavior. Now this is a really extreme example, and it's sort of tying in the competition conversation we had before as well.
mm.
I had an in-house competition, um, and there was a middle-aged ginger woman. I'm ginger, so I'm allowed to be derogatory to ginger people. Um, she was standing over the top of her daughter, filming her when her match was not really going particularly well. I think she was in an armbar, and she's screaming at her daughter, "Don't tap! Never ever tap! Don't tap! We don't tap!" And I'm thinking, oh my god, like you're telling your child to have her arm broken for no reason at all,
Yeah.
and just at what point did the parents have to step back and say, wow, that was a little bit out of control? Like, why am I encouraging that sort of behavior for my child?
Mm, that is absolutely
Yeah,
wild.
yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. What ended up happening with that?
And the armbar ended up being stopped before
Yeah.
it got too bad. And the child was safe, but she's in tears, and the mother's like, "Oh, she never tapped," and these sorts of things. But then again, they're not really taking into consideration
Mm,
the safety of the children at all.
no.
They're just thinking about. I think they're kind of living vicariously through their own children. Um, and I actually think it's a pretty big. I think in New Zealand it's a pretty big problem.
Mm.
Um, I want to read you something. This shows you the state of, in some of the competitions in New Zealand. This is an ad for one of the jiu-jitsu competitions. Jiu-jitsu parents, start your child's competition journey in 2025. Competing isn't just for the pros, it's for all ages. Help your child build confidence, break through plateaus, progress towards the next belt faster. We're going to give away free information from our best athletes to get your future superstar on the right track. Like, it's, oh, it's so scary. It's just like,
Mm.
it's just, oh, it just, oh, no, it just makes me feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah, me too. The fact that they're even stating that they're gonna, by doing these competitions, get the belt faster. Like,
Yeah,
this is something that, and I have lost students for, because their kid, for example, had started, and don't get me wrong, fantastic at jiu-jitsu, hadn't
yeah,
even been training a year, but was doing very well. And I think it was like 7 months, 7 months. And the parent came to me and told me that they need a grey belt. And I
yeah,
was like, okay,
yeah,
well, I'm very stubborn. If you tell me something that I
yeah,
need to do, it's like I'm just not going to do it, which is a
yeah,
very bad habit that I have to try and deal with in my personal life. But I
yeah,
was like, okay, like, well, the other parents think that they should have a grey belt too, which, by the way, leads into a whole other problem that I was having, but that's
yeah,
all resolved itself. And I was like, oh, okay, like, I understand. Like, they do this comp, they do this comp, they do this comp. And I was
mm,
like, okay, I understand that you're saying that because your kid is competing a lot, they deserve another belt. But that's actually
mm.
not how it works.
So how do you gauge the promotions of the kids?
Yes,
So
100%.
what would a kid need to do for in your school to go from a white belt to a grey belt?
Mm-hmm. So I have recently redone this because of
Mm,
these issues where I was having parents being like, I think my kid is this and I think my kid is that. And again, like this is where I state I am by no means perfect at this because
mm,
I understand child development, I understand kids, but you chuck me into a situation now where I own an academy. I've never been a business owner. So this 3
mm,
years has been me like learning how to run a business. And part of that is making some pretty big fuck ups
yeah,
where it was
yeah.
like, why do I know that the system is so important? Because, sorry, hang on one second. My dog is making a ridiculous sound. Can you hear that?
No, but it's hilarious. It's
Honestly,
very serious conversation, but
I
also dog
know.
noises.
But the reason the reason that I know this is because I messed it up. My systems weren't there. So how do I know that systems are so important? Because I stuffed up mine. And so what I found was okay, I wasn't explicitly clear about what a child needs to do to get to the next belt. And by
Yeah,
not being explicitly clear, I invited the parents to gossip to each other.
yeah, yeah.
So I have recently redone this, and I can't say it's perfect. I have been speaking to a fantastic friend that I have in I'm going to say Nevada. I always get it
Mm,
wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's in Nevada in America, and he's fantastic. And he rang me actually. We had a group chat, and I just mentioned something, and he's like, "Are you okay? Like, do you want to call?" So
mm,
he gave me a call. I was like, "I don't know what to do. Where do I go with this? Like, I'm not feeling confident with any of this." So he ran a 3 step system. It's different to mine, but I loved the
mm,
idea. So I took what I could. And it was essentially I have four like values, my four main values of my gym, which is consistency, discipline, teamwork, and respect.
yeah,
So my children need to show me that they're actually meeting each one of those areas to be graded. So I have
yeah.
4 colored stripes. I don't expect anyone else to do this, but I have like a blue, green, yellow, and red stripe, completely unrelated to jiu-jitsu, but they're related to
Mm,
values of life.
yeah,
If I can see the kids are meeting those values, great, you've just met the first step.
yeah.
You've got to attend. I always do this thumbs up thing. Can you see my little? I always manage to do this. The second one is that they do need to attend a certain amount of classes. So for my white to grey, it is 100 classes. I don't know if that's like a huge amount or not. I don't know, but some kids are going to do 100 classes in not that long. If
Yeah,
you're a kid that trains once a week, obviously that's going to be harder. So I am flexible with it.
yeah,
Um, and the third is that they need to, what is the third one? Oh, obviously have the skills.
yeah,
So I need to see the skill as well. I know some academies do like a grading where you've got to show certain amount of techniques or show certain things. I don't, but I do think you can kind of tell. Like if a child knows like basic takedowns, they know what the whole point of jiu-jitsu is. If they can explain to you why they want to get past the legs or why they want to do these
mm,
things, then they probably are a gray belt. They understand the very basic concepts. It's the same as going from kind of white to blue, where it's you know how to survive.
yeah,
You can survive, and then you get to blue, and it's like, okay, now you can survive, but now you're going to actually start learning how to do jiu-jitsu.
yeah.
So that's how I run mine. Yeah. Yeah. What about you? How do you do yours?
It's similar. So I call it the triple A system.
Ooh.
So it's aptitude, so that's, are they good at jiu-jitsu for what they need to do? Then it's attitude, like how much of a pain are you? Are you not a pain? Then that's good. Do you cause problems with other people in the gym? That's not good.
Yeah.
And then it's attendance. So do they come to enough classes? Are they pleasant and enjoyable to be part of our group? And are they good for what my expectations are for the level?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it's hard, isn't it? Because there's no, I mean, we have IBJJF that sets these like
Mm.
belt guidelines, but there's not actually like you should know how to do this or you should be able to do this. It's very much open to interpretation of whatever you want.
Well, I feel like the the checking techniques is it ends up being gamed by the kids. So, like, if you give the kids an opportunity to game a system, they will game the system immediately. So,
Mm.
if you say to them, you have to do 3 sweeps from close guard, and you need to be able to do 3 guard passes, and you need to know an armbar, a kimura, and a triangle choke, the kids can learn that in 3 days.
Yeah.
And then they'll come in and be like, I'm ready for my grey belt assessment. Look what I can do. Good to go.
Yeah.
I think that doing CLA kind of does away with that a little bit too,
Mm.
in a way, because you can't avoid being put in situations where you're not good in that particular situation. And I think that if you put a kid in the bottom of the mountain and say, all right, your job's to get out of the bottom and out, the other kid's just going to hold you down, you can see immediately whether or not they're capable of escaping from the mount. And that's a really good way of measuring their aptitude in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah, completely agree on that. That is the thing that I love about CLA is that it does put you into the situations where you're like, man, this sucks.
Yeah,
This
and some of the kids will be completely incapable of doing some things, and
mm,
they might just be like the most uncoordinated people in the world.
yeah,
But if we're gauging from can't even stand up straight to well, they can kind of stand up and not fall over all the time, and when they fall over, they're not landing on their heads. You've made a lot of improvement. Maybe we should consider this the grey belt level for you.
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? We have so many different uh levels within the levels. You know, I give the belt because I go off the child themselves. Like if I've had a child that's come in and they used to cry every time they'd step on the
Mm,
mats, and then they'd cry every time they were doing something in the session, and now all of a sudden, like you said, they're actually holding their base a bit better, or they're not crying. They're even jumping on the mats and saying hello to people and running around before the class starts. And there are things that are more important to me than jujitsu when it comes to jujitsu.
yeah,
And that's where I incorporate those colored ones simply because I want to acknowledge the life skills or the things that they're showing me that aren't
yeah.
the things that we sometimes are focused on in the training.
Well, I think at the end of the day, we are teaching the kids social skills. We're teaching them how to communicate. We're teaching them emotional regulation. And let's be honest, you're not teaching 3 and 4-year-olds how to do flying arm bars and how to do berimbolos. That's not what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're teaching the kids to be able to have the confidence to talk to an adult they don't know very well. They're having the confidence to communicate with other children. Teaching them how to behave themselves, how to alert us to their needs,
Yeah.
and that's really what we're doing. You
Yeah.
can't. I think that sometimes the parents think that after 2 weeks of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, they're going to be doing like Imanari rolls and like heel hooks or what have you. But at the end of the day, if they can just put their belt on properly, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, that's even if they don't put their belt on properly, if you're trying to put your belt on,
Yeah.
because there are some kids that will
Yeah.
just stand there and be like, I can't do it. I can't. And you're like, I know that
They
you,
just hand it to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
here, take my belt. I'm like, okay, but you can try. And they're like, I don't know, I can't. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stand next to you. Let's try it together. I
Yeah.
can't. I'm like, all right, if I can get you from I can't to okay, your belt is like hanging off sideways, but you did it yourself,
Yeah.
that is amazing for me. I don't care
Yeah.
if your belt's not perfectly tied as long as you've tried. I think
I
that's
didn't even learn how to tie my belt properly until I was a purple belt. So
to be
I
fair,
don't,
I tie mine and it just comes off anyway.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like I actually because I got my purple belt last week. So I
Oh,
got my purple.
congratulations.
Thank you. So I received my purple belt and the belt's stiff. So it's even worse now
Yeah.
because my blue belt was very worn in so I could tie it and it would stay. But now I really have to practice tying the damn thing because every time I try to tighten it, it just comes off.
It's just sticking out in different
It's
directions.
going every direction.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
all right, this belt needs some love for a few years. Absolutely. This has been such an awesome conversation, James. I knew you were like, oh, not the pressure at the beginning. But seriously, I think the way that it's gone in that just having these conversations around kids and especially the difficulties that we go through with
Mm.
The things that happen off the mats. Sometimes I think the things that happen off the mats are more challenging than what we experience when we're just trying to coach and teach in the first place. Yeah, it can be a lot. And as I mentioned, I'm no expert at those things. So I'm always open to learning and seeing those things along the way as well. So what I've taken from you, I'm really excited because I'm definitely going to do my boundary thing. I love that idea.
Okay. Okay. I'll send it through. I'll send it through for sure.
Absolutely. So I guess because you've been doing, jiu-jitsu for a long time, and you've also been a coach for a long time in jiu-jitsu too, and you've seen the evolution of jiu-jitsu, which go from 2002 to now is massive.
Yeah.
What do you think about kids jiu-jitsu? Where do you see it heading now, and where would you like to see it going?
I think that I have two sort of binary positions on that.
Mm.
When I started jujitsu, there was no concept of kids jujitsu. It was just hard training. We trained in a hospital gym surrounded by weights. It was not safe. We never cleaned the mats. It was not, we didn't have gis. It was just the way you would think any 90s or early 2000s training session would be in jiu-jitsu. It was rough. So going from that to where it is now, the optimistic side of me likes to think about it as, wow, we're going to see some really great talents coming through in competition. I think that jiu-jitsu is a really good medium for kids to develop confidence in a safe way. I think that provided the frameworks are put in place for the kids learning, then we're going to see a lot of benefits from the kids doing jiu-jitsu. The pessimistic side of me is thinking that it's a cash grab for a lot of people, and I think that that is going to have a detriment to jiu-jitsu as a whole. I hate to think that we're looking at jiu-jitsu now as the peak of karate back in the late 80s, early 90s. There was a karate club on every corner. There was everyone teaching jiu-jitsu. And the more people do that, the quality is going to drop. And in New Zealand, it's a very poorly regulated industry, and I'm quite concerned about that. And I don't want to finish on a pessimistic tone. And I really hope that people take the time to look at the content that people like yourself provide and do the study to become better coaches and actually focus more on developing the children and improving the kids themselves than worrying about how many points they get at the local competitions.
Yeah, yeah, that was very, very well said. It's exactly the same here. It's very much unregulated, and it is got to the point where there is a jiu-jitsu school in every corner, and some are opening up 5 or 6 in the same city. We have franchises in every part of our entire city, and we're a very small city in comparison to others. And um, not that there's anything wrong with franchises or anything like that. That's not what I'm insinuating, but it's more just it gets to the point where there's so many. How do you acknowledge the quality of something, and how does somebody who's never even heard of jiu-jitsu figure out what that looks like?
I don't think that a brand new beginner in jiu-jitsu could even tell the difference between
No,
a low-level purple belt and a high-level international competitor black belt. I don't think that they could tell the difference.
no. Oh, we even we're going to get ready to finish up, but we had a very high level international black belt teaching at our gym, and it didn't attract anyone because
Yeah, yeah.
who are they? you
Yeah,
know?
and maybe they're not the best coaches either.
Yeah,
That's the paradox of competitors as well, is that sometimes they're just terrible teachers.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, I know that this person's done a lot of work to be better. They're not with us anymore, but at the time it was a difficult time for them as well. But
Mm,
yeah, the idea of you don't know. There is no
mm.
regulated system. There isn't anything. Thank you for your kind words, because that is what I aim to try and do, is just create maybe a bit of consistency among coaching and just being like, okay, yeah, you are teaching some cool jiu-jitsu moves, but what are you giving the kids for the rest of their lives? And the experience you give them in those times that they're on your mats, That's going to be the thing they're going to remember when they're an adult. Because realistically, are they going to go from a kid trained in jiu-jitsu to a black belt? Very, very highly unlikely.
Yeah.
The ones that don't, they're going to have kids. And they're going to have kids.
Yeah.
And then one day they're going to be like, I remember when I did jiu-jitsu and I remember I really enjoyed it because of this. I'm going to put my kids into jiu-jitsu. And I think this is how we should be looking at it rather than, how many points can I earn at the next comp?
Yeah.
100%.
And no one cares. And no one cares about how many points you got at the competition. And no one's going to remember if your kids won or lost. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Yeah. Thank you so much, James. It's been such an awesome conversation. I really appreciate
You're
your
welcome,
time.
Ellie. You're welcome.
And I hope we keep in touch. I think we've got some good conversations that we can have together. And hopefully one day I actually make it to New Zealand. I've never been, and it's one of my top places I'd love to come and visit.
It's only like, where are you? Are you in Adelaide?
3 hours. It's literally, I'm in Brisbane.
You're in Sydney.
Yeah,
well, Brisbane, yeah.
3 hours
You've got no
flight.
excuse. You've got no excuse.
We have direct flights from the Sunshine Coast where I live straight to New Zealand. There's no excuses anymore.
Yeah, you've got no excuses. You've got no excuses.
So when I make it, I'll send you a message because I'd love to come and visit.
For sure.
Enjoy your afternoon, and I will see you soon.
Thank you, Ellen. I hope you have a good one, huh?
Thank you, you too. Bye.